Welcome to Programmers Lab podcast at Nitor. We have a very interesting topic today to discuss about exploring spec-driven development. Everyone is talking about it in the market. So we have an expert where we can get a first-hand information. We have Mr. Vijay Narayandasani, who is a director of technology at Nitor and very good friend of mine. So welcome Vijay to this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this podcast. And let me introduce Salil Chitnis. He's a client success head and ensures that every customer's need, whatever they need, he ensures that they get right.
So Vijay, when I speak to most of our customers, they are saying that AI is making them faster, but with the 2x time because they spend it to understand what AI has produced. So on a lighter note, AI is either an excitement or an anxiety. What is your take on this?
Okay, I think it depends on what problems you are solving with AI and how you are solving. Because if you jump onto any fancy stuff which is available in a market as a tool, or let's say something new came up and you pick that up and then started doing something, I think then you will end up in nowhere, to be honest, because you have not thought about what problems you are solving and you don't have a right approach to tackle that thing, right? So for me, from a technical perspective, it is exciting because when I see the speed of innovation got increased because we are now able to try new things easily and look at it how it looks like, and then eventually talk to customers and then give them a confidence that this can be delivered. I think there we are doing a good job. But again, there are challenges as well. So I say scaling up, getting to the production grade stuff, it's still industry is trying to do, and somewhat successes available as of now, we can say.
So as you said, if I dissect it correctly, in all this noise, there are few things which are actually working,
okay,
and few things are just promising. They are not yet there. So it's a future. So which are those things you feel?
So I think when I say we are there, I think the engineering aspect of any product development, you can say, right? So product engineering aspect, right? I think that is getting a speed there, because the way we were working earlier, the way we do now, I think it got changed a lot, where you have enough tooling in place to generate the code, and code is cheap, by the way. Now this is what new trend coming up, right? It's all about your approach, your methodology, what you use. Be it vibe coding, be it spec-driven development, which is the topic of today, right? I think it's about the problem you want to solve and how you tackle it, and you have to be very, I think, cognizant about how AI works, right? Because a lot of things has been said in a market in a fancy way, or AGI. I think we are getting there, so it's not too far, but still we have a lot of things to see. So I would say future is, that's the AGI is the end goal of this entire revolution, or let's say the entire innovation space, but it is still shaping up based on the problems coming up. Again, industry is working towards that. Big giants are working on that, right?
So Vijay, I was recently speaking to one of our customers, and he said that most of his team members are spending a lot of time in either prompting, rewriting, reviewing things. So are we really hitting a vibe coding wall? Or what do you feel is more problematic? Is it tools, or is it approach in this AI era?
I think it's more about approach, because tools are like the speed of coming new tools is getting increased day by day. Every day you get a new tool, right? But you have to be very wise about what you pick for what, right? I think you have to be very selective about your tool. In fact, LLM as well, right? You can't randomly, because you should know what LLM is meant for, right? Some LLMs are good with some use cases. Some use cases are very different to deal with that, right? So the approach is different. And I think your question for vibe coding, right? I think vibe coding, when it started a couple of years back, and it was termed by a prominent leader there in the market, right? I think it was more about building something, your inner vibe, what you feel, how you want to shape up your idea, and that was the problem. That was the synopsis of that, right? But eventually it became a trend, and people picked up like, okay, I can vibe code my entire product and all this thing, right? At some extent, it works, but it doesn't scale. That's why, as I said earlier, right? And then eventually you have to come up with an approach. You can't do vibe coding for everything what you have, right? You have to pick a right approach in terms of methodology. So again, we have to go to basics, fundamentals, what we had earlier.
This reminds me a very good case study, or the recent incident happened to us. You were part of that. So one of our customers where we failed, and then we went back to basics with a very strong specs first.
Okay.
Because whatever POC we built did not go to production for n number of reasons, and then we thought, let's take a pause and go back to basics. And then we came up with the very strong specs, and then it really went ahead. So do you want to share that story with our audience?
Yeah, I think so. Initially, as usual, vibe coding was a trend. We were doing it, and we were getting success there in terms of chunks, to be honest. Like if you have a small problem, you can solve with vibe coding. That's not a problem there. But when you work in a larger ecosystem or a bigger system which is solving certain things, or it's already developed, you are just building a piece around that, or you are building a module there, I think then it is difficult, right? You can't vibe code there, right? And then you go to basics, because as we say, LLM is, or let's say your AI is your intern, right? You have to be very specific what you want to build. You can't just say one-liner or let's say very vague requirement. So for you to transition from vague to be specific now, and that's the biggest shift now industry is going for, to be honest, right? And here I would say, I mean, specs were like, it's not that new term which we have innovated. It was there since beginning. I think API contracts.
We used to write the code.
Documentation was the initial thing, right? So it's like documenting everything what you need from a product or from a software or from a system, right? We used to document earlier, and then we used to execute, right? Now same process is being followed now. Even this earlier it was API contracts. Like since microservice came into picture, people say you should have an API contract, because otherwise one system can't talk to other system without knowing how API functions. And that become a now de facto standards for spec-driven development, where you need to specify what you want, and it includes everything. So the problems which we solved with customers, that initially it was hallucinating a lot of random code was being generated, and we were spending too much time into reviewing the code, because it was again hallucinated one, and we were not specific with our requirement. Then we changed the approach. We picked up a spec-driven development, and spec-driven development comes with a lot of, I would say, standardized approach. First, you specify what you want, and you should have a constitution in place. That is a basic fundamental of, for example, constitution is nothing but your guiding principle across your company. What coding standards you follow, what is your architectural decisions you have, your specs about what exactly you need, your user stories, right? That has to be well defined, your acceptance criteria. Because if that is not well defined, you will end up building something random, and then eventually you spend a lot of time in correcting that, right? So I think that's what the shift is, and that's what we did with customer, and now we are getting success there. And customers also seeing the value, because it's like plan well and then execute, rather than randomly executing and then ending up in rework, right? So that's what I see as a major shift there in spec-driven development.
Because we have seen this trend in multiple other customers. So are we really going back to fundamentals? When we had our engineering, it was have fundamentals better first and then jump into whatever.
I think, in my opinion, fundamentals were never out of the fashion. It was there, and it is still there. The things has been like the marketing part of it, right? It has been said a lot that okay, AI will do this, do that, right? Eventually, you have to put something as a context there, right? Or let's say this principle of engineering, right? How you want to build it, because specs is all about that. You specify what exactly, even in fact your technology stack. You can't put it on AI that okay, you decide technology stack. I can't say that, right? I have to be very thorough, or let's say my specification has to be that detailed that it gives proper input to the LLM or that particular agent, which picks that up and then build around it, right? So it won't hallucinate. Again, there are chances of hallucination. There will be a challenge in terms of validating, but for me, I have to ensure my specs are properly written. So my validation more into specs rather than I'm validating output, because output is anyway aligned with my specs, right? So that's the shift. And principles, engineering fundamentals were never out of fashion, and it won't be, because that will be needed. Any AI will come, it will, in fact, if you don't do it, your LLM will do it, right? So it is not going to be out.
So you mean to say clarity comes first and then the generation.
Yes.
So let me take one step back for our audience. Okay, why don't you explain the basics of spec-driven development to our audience?
Sure. So spec-driven development start with, let's say you should have, as I said, few things I covered earlier in that. So constitution is something which you create beforehand. So you don't say that, for example, what are the coding convention you follow, right? What are the assumptions you have? What are the limitations you have? Like, and your NFRs, right? Non-functional requirement. Everything should go into a specs actually. And then your specification comes into picture. For example, my requirement of product, my user stories, my exactly what is my problem statement, what I'm trying to build, everything goes into that spec. And then I have a plan. Plan is nothing but it's my technical plan. So, or let's say my architecture, that this is my system is going to look like. This will be my modules, this will be my communication method, this will be my tech stack, this will be my preference of database. Everything I have to put beforehand in that particular plan. And then I have to divide everything into smaller tasks. So if I divide these multiple tasks, then it becomes easy for agents to pick those tasks and develop around it. Right now what happens is that if I don't do this, I am on a mercy of LLM's intelligence, right? Let's say it will define itself, it will divide itself. Then eventually there is a possibility of rework again, which we want to avoid. So you be specific what exactly you want to do on a task basis, right? So first you have a constitution, then you have your specification of like functional requirement, then you have a plan around it, like technical plan, and then at the end you should have your task. Then you asked agents to implement it. Then you will see the results, because then it is not hallucinating much. It is giving you what you need, and you are spending less time in reviewing because everything was specified earlier, right? So this is how the spec-driven development works, and it differs tool by tool. So there are various tools. GitHub SpecKit is there, AWS Kiro is there. Now Claude is also supporting that as well, because methodology is the same. You specify what you want and then you develop.
So is it applicable to only greenfield projects or brownfield modernization or anything? I mean, this methodology is applicable to all, or is there any difference while you apply it to different kinds of projects?
I think fundamentals remain same for spec-driven development as well, but the way you write spec is different. So if I have brownfield development I'm doing, right? So I have an existing system in place. I should know what are my current tech stack, what is my current methodology I'm following, what are the consideration I had while creating that system. So that's the consideration. In greenfield, I have a little bit of free hand, so I can define what I want in the beginning, because that's like building a new system, right? Again, specs has to be written. Maybe you have liberty to keep your specs sort of open there. And again, so if you work on legacy modernization or something, then you have to understand your old system, what was at that time, and then what new advancements you want to bring in, right? So that defines your spec. So eventually it's a mixture of everything, and then you put it up and then you start developing.
Okay, Vijay, now comes an interesting part. Okay. So as you are saying, we are generating specs, and AI itself can generate specs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So do you see the future that in a repository there are specs and prompts instead of code?
Yes, it is. That's what is predicted, I think, a year ago by prominent person, Andre Karpati, who is again a inventor of term vibe coding. He said the same thing, that future repository look like there will be a prompts, your specs, your MD files, because that's what markdown files is, and then your LLMs will be capable enough to generate the code. And code is more of a I don't know it's right to say, but this is a disposable entity now, that you can generate code however you want.
So what changes any engineer or our audience needs to bring in them to adopt to this spec-driven development?
I think it is more about being more descriptive about your problems. So you can't put a vague requirement and expect LLM to do a magic, because you have to be very instructive now. So it's like how good you are writing instructions. So I'll give you an example of user manual, right? Although nowadays we don't read, we just do hands-on.
We never use.
Yeah, we never use, right? And
we fail, and then we go back to user.
Yeah, because when we get
I think this is what
when you start at a problem, right? When you use a mobile, it's not working. So I have to figure out something in manual has been mentioned about this problem, right? So I think this is how it is. So although earlier it looked like manuals were not useful so far, like unless until you get into a problem. Same with AI. So earlier it was like people putting random stuff into AI, it was generating it, hallucinating, and people are complaining about it, right? That okay, it's not up to the mark. But here I'm saying, as a developer, if I'm using spec-driven development as an approach, I have to think more about how good I am writing at spec, or how I am good at describing my problem, or let's say for example, as I said, technical spec, right, or a technical plan, it has to be very descriptive that what front end technology I'm going to use, what back end technology I'm going to use, what is my design pattern I'm going to follow, what is my architectural consideration, like what is my NFRs, right, like how much scaling I want to achieve from my development. I think so as a developer or as a let's say person who is coding has to be very specific what they want, otherwise they'll end up in again correcting stuff, and it is like a reiterative process.
Does this mean that in a given pod or a squad you need more people who can understand requirement better than writing a code? Or because code generation is nowadays very easy,
Okay.
but bunch of people who can, as you rightly said,
Yeah.
can explain about the problem better, is it going to change any pod structure is my actual question.
Yes, I agree with you, because, and again, partially as well. So why partially? Because you still need a developer to understand what is being generated. So you can't say a person who is just writing a good prompt can be a good developer. No, because you still need, as I said earlier, fundamentals are not going away. You should know how it works, how it behaves, or what is a fundamental way of writing code. Here it's like you are not writing it, the agent is writing it, and again you have to validate, right? So for validation, I should have the knowledge, right? So I think the pod structure is similar to, I would say, so earlier we used to call that agile team, right? You should have every flavor, like you should have developer, you should have QA, you should have business analyst or a scrum master, and then we used to run those particular sprints, right? Here also, I would say pod structure is little bit changed, where everyone is more of an AI engineer, I would say. AI engineer with skill set of writing a better specification. Also, they are in their areas, like they are a good developer, or let's say they are a good tester, to be honest, right? Or a QA person. I think, again, QA test case automation has to be done. So there will be agent who is writing test cases, but you have to validate as you correctly said. So we need people who understand business requirement in detail now, rather than just superficial stuff, right? I can't say that I know something has to be built, right? It has to be understood thoroughly, step by step, and then my prompt will reflect that how much understanding I have about my problem statement, and then I am delivering it, right? So I think this is how it's getting into.
So you mean to say agent is going to be your new team member, where all other team members are going to look at what that team member has produced? Is it going to be a mixture of people, agent? How this whole world is going towards that autonomous systems?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's look like a future now, where you have agents in place, you have team members in place. But I think now true value comes in from how you orchestrate them, because orchestration is nowadays is like, I mean, this when I was in recent AI summit, right? Same discussion was happening around like among between leaders, that orchestration is a challenge, because the more agents you build, the more autonomous workflow you would need. And the biggest problem is you need an integrated system. You can't have silos in agents, right? Similarly with the team base, we say, right? If one person is doing something, other people are not aware, then you will end up into silos, and you will have problems in your final product, right? What you want to deliver. So I think similar way with agents, we have to integrate that with the existing ecosystem. So if my developer is, or a QA person is using agent, has to understand that it is a part of a team, right? You have to leverage it very well, to be honest, or maybe effectively, with proper explanation what you want to do here, and then you orchestrate your workflows, and then you yield output from that. Otherwise, it will be just again one of the like trendy stuff we have, but people are not using it, right?
So I think you have explained it a lot about spec-driven development. Last final question, Vijay.
Okay.
Is spec-driven development an answer to everything in future?
I would say no, because spec-driven development is solving our current problem. Because see, AI space is evolving. Like last 3-4 years, I would say since ChatGPT launched till now, a lot of things got changed. And again, the way we used to write prompt earlier, now we write is different. And we have a lot of tools which are enabling us to do it, right? So I think it is not a silver bullet. It is solve some problems where I need to avoid, I would say, hallucination. I want to work at a scale where I don't want any random stuff coming into my system. And first of all, the major aspect is I am sure what I want to build. Because biggest problem is, I think one of the customer discussion I had, and they were asking, are we getting into waterfall again? Because waterfall was about the same. You plan everything in advance and then you develop. Here I would say it's a mix of both, because still you have to think about it, what you want to build. So if you're very clear about your thought, it works well, because you have a tools in place which can work for you, but you have to be specific what you want. As well as, I think the interesting part is, as you said, you can leverage agents to write specs. So you are not spending too much time into specs. You just put your thought that this is what I think as of my spec. Agent will elaborate more based on the context you have given, and then you can leverage that for spec-driven development. So that will save your time, and you are effectively using AI. But that is for now. So maybe down the line, if you ask me 6 months from now, there will be a new methodology or new tools coming in, or LLMs will be more advanced where you don't have to specify at all, or maybe it will pick specs from repository what you have, or your, for example, the legacy modernization work, right? We are trying to understand from existing code, which is legacy code, are we able to drive more specs? We are doing it, by the way, but again, there are challenges, right? So you have to go step-by-step approach, or you have to give more context about what you have in your system, right? So I think it is evolving space, but yeah, it is not a silver bullet for everything. It is solving the problem of the random stuff which was getting generated. Developers are spending too much time into understanding what is being generated by LLM. Here you have a definite or structure there, where you have a certainty in place. Of course, there will be a variance, but it will be manageable because you are still aligned what you want, right? So that's how I see it.
I think this is a very good and lot of information, Vijay, which you have given to us. Now my brain has started hallucinating, it feels.
Okay.
But thanks from our audience. You came here, you gave a lot of knowledge to us. So thanks for that.
Before you thank me, I have a question for you as well, and I would like to also thank you for giving an opportunity to speak about my views on this. But my question to you is, since you got this information about how spec-driven development is evolving, the challenges and all, I think now how your conversation with customer will change, because now you have a lot of insights. And again, we are doing this like in an evolving process. How your interaction with customer will shape up now based on this information what you got now.
I never expected this Yorker for him, from him, but okay. So, Vijay, what I have observed during my conversations to a lot of our customers is they are coming up with, we have created something over the weekend, we have created this in 2 weeks, why you are taking too much of time? I feel like a pigeon coming from the magician's cap. Yeah. But they are not really understanding that majority of the POCs are not going to production. Yeah. And there are multiple reasons to it, okay? And one of the strong reason, or whatever through our conversations I have observed, is the POCs are not aligned to the ecosystem. They are not fundamentally correct. They are not even starting right. Okay. So I think this approach will give them a very strong fundamental to start POCs and take them to production. So the case which we discussed, we started with that only, that POC did not go to production for n number of reasons. We learned out of it. We created a framework out of it. We have validation framework. Probably we'll have another podcast on it for our audience, but that is going to help my customers now to create a solid fundamentals using this spec-driven development, and through which the success rate, which is low today, will definitely go to high rate is what I'm seeing. Yep. So I think this is the way I will now go to them and say, okay, let's solve our fundamentals first, and they are quite open about it. So this is my take from our conversation. So thanks for that. And
yeah, I think you nicely summarized all whatever I shared with you. I think all the points you captured well, and I hope your conversation will be more meaningful to customer in terms of this sense. And I think the bottom line is productivity gain will be there.
And I will take you to my customers for conversations, because you are the champ.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But I think, I mean, it's still evolving and we are still learning. So let's see how we progress in future.
So really thanks a lot, Vijay, for your time and knowledge which you have shared to our audience. I thank you from entire Nitor team, and I wish you the best for this AI wave.
Thanks for having me here. I think it was a very insightful conversation for me as well, because the question you asked were, to be honest, on the point, to the point, to be honest, where like the current problems we are seeing in industry, the challenges we are facing, and the spec-driven development, which is solving some at some extent. I think this is evolving space, as I said, and we are learning together. And let's see how it goes in future.
Okay, thanks for watching this Programmers Lab podcast. Stay tuned for next podcast. And I am at the gunpoint of marketing team, so please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.